Sam Daniels did not fancy himself a hero. Every day, before dawn, he would rise to the persistent clamor of a city that never really slept. In a modest apartment along a fading industrial boulevard in Kansas City, he helped his aging mother and worked the long, steady hours on the production line at a local manufacturing plant. There was dignity in his labor and a deep-seated joy in the routine. The smell of motor oil, the sound of metal clanging, and the quiet companionship of fellow workers who understood the value of honest work. Sam's life was uncomplicated. Get up, go to work, come home, catch a few hours of sleep, and repeat it all again. But beneath this seemingly mundane exterior of his existence, fate was preparing to sweep him into a storm far greater than anything his quiet world had known. On one chilly autumn morning, while sipping a bitter cup of coffee and reading the local paper, Sam's eyes caught a headline that made his pulse quicken: Global Powers' Unprecedented Shift in World Order. He wasn't one to dwell on media hype, yet the article's unnerving hints about shadowy government operatives and conspiracies stirred something inside him. He brushed it aside as sensationalism, a mix of paranoia and curiosity. Little did he know that in mere days that curiosity would become his only shield against the chaos that loomed. While working his shift, Sam moved with a mechanical precision honed from years of repetitive labor. Today was different. Amid the clamor and sparks on the factory floor, something unusual happened. A misdirected package appeared near the loading dock. It was a plain, unmarked box that exuded a strange aura of foreboding. His co-worker, Marty, eyed it suspiciously, but Sam found himself inexplicably drawn to it. He stopped what he was doing and walked toward the dock. The only thing that Sam could make out from the box before it was swept away by an anxious supervisor was a strange insignia that he had never seen before. The normality of his routine was being disrupted, and as he locked up the plant that night, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change forever. That evening, sitting at a weather table in a local greasy diner, Sam couldn't help but replay the morning's events in his mind. His quiet skepticism fought against the lingering shiver that told him something was terribly wrong. Just then, a stranger in a dark leather jacket slid into his booth. The stranger's eyes were hard, and with a low, urgent voice whispered, "Are you Sam Daniels?" Before Sam could protest, the mysterious man slid a crinkled business card across the table. It bore an insignia like nothing Sam had ever seen before that morning, before the unmarked package. It was a minimalist design that seemed to pulse with an unspoken meaning. The remark came quietly, almost as if it were a secret meant only for those who already knew too much. "My name is Agent Rourke," the man murmured. "You need to come with me." Sam, whose instinct was to flee from anything remotely militant or dangerous, felt rooted to his seat. Almost as if by magic or fate, his life was unfurling into a realm of conspiracy and danger that he had only read about in cheap spy novels. Without fully understanding why, Sam agreed. He left the comforting din of the diner with a sense of apprehension that was rapidly being replaced by the realization that his once mundane life had cracked open to reveal a hidden potential where anything could happen. Over the next few days, Sam found himself pulled into a vortex of secrecy. Agent Rourke's cryptic explanations hinted at a mammoth plot born not of idealistic patriotism, but of a disquieting ambition to reshape the world order by annihilating entire governments. Intelligence obtained from deep within the corridors of the CIA building suggested that a covert faction working behind the scenes had devised a plan with methods so catastrophic that whispers of a doomsday device even surfaced among insiders. Sam was told that his unremarkable existence now had a connection to these events. It was a connection that made him uniquely positioned, for reasons he could not yet fathom, to tip the balance and ultimately save humanity. Awash in a sea of confusion, Sam grappled with his new reality. The blue-collar worker who had fixed machines and his mother's leaky faucet now had to learn the language of clandestine operations. The raw, unvarnished authenticity of everyday life seemed to dissolve in the face of covert meetings, secret codes, and small acts of rebellion against forces that ruled behind the scenes. Each new revelation chipped away at the facade of routine that had defined him. Though terror and uncertainty became his unwelcome companions, the fire within him grew. A spark that would kindle the courage required to face a threat larger than himself. A threat bent on rewriting the destiny of the world. The transition from an ordinary worker to unsuspecting operative was not a gentle one. In a nondescript safe house on the outskirts of the city, Sam was introduced to a ragtag group of individuals who had, like him, been plucked from unremarkable lives and thrust into a global conflict. There was Elena, a brilliant hacker with a fierce determination to expose government lies. Marcus, an ex-military tactician whose eyes had witnessed too many misdeeds in the name of national security to ignore, and Reggie, a former investigative journalist whose persistence in chasing the truth had cost him dearly. Together, these individuals formed an unlikely resistance, each bearing scars of betrayal, dreams of redemption, and the desperate hope that the system they once trusted was not irredeemable. Training was rudimentary, but necessary. Sam's education in espionage was taught in hush sessions over outdated blueprints and copious cups of cold coffee. He learned how to decipher coded messages, how to blend in when observing a high-security meeting, and maybe most dauntingly, how to trust his own instincts. The team had little time to spare. Cryptic data suggested that the rogue elements within the CIA were accelerating their plans. Their operation, codenamed Project Ragnarok, was moving forward at a perilous pace. Its goal was to ultimately unleash a cascade of events that would cause a domino effect, inciting global chaos and paving the way for a radical reordering of world powers. One chilly night, as Sam sat pacing in an abandoned factory converted into a makeshift planning center, Marcus unfurled a map dotted with red pins and intricate notations. "They're targeting the capital cities of the major powers," he explained. "Bombers, sabotage, electronic warfare, the works. And if their device is activated..." His voice trailed off as the harsh reality sank in. Sam could feel the weight of his ordinary life contrasting sharply with the monumental danger now overshadowing the globe. The night's silence felt oppressive, as if the world itself were holding its breath in anticipation of the coming storm. Haunted by the ghosts of a routine life he once thought was normal, Sam resolved that he would fight. Not because he believed in ideology or politics, but because he couldn't stand by as the fabric of humanity was torn apart by greed and power. His heart hammered as he prepared for the unknown. Little did he know that his journey into this abyss was only beginning, and that every step he took would bring him closer to the ultimate confrontation with a system determined to control the world at any cost. For weeks, the gravity of the conspiracy weighed heavily on the group. Elena's efforts had unearthed deep digital trails of collaboration between high-ranking CIA officers and enigmatic figures in global finance, linking them all to this unprecedented project. During long nights in cramped rooms filled with the glow of computer screens and the hum of anxiety, Elena's fingers danced across keyboards. With every line of code she cracked, she unearthed more evidence of a plot that threatened not just individual nations, but the entirety of modern civilization. The once dismissed headlines now resonated with a terrible reality. Humanity stood balanced on the knife edge of oblivion. Elena's breakthrough came when she hacked into a secure server buried deep within layers of encryption. The files contained technical schematics, lists of covert agents, and even whispers of experiments that had already taken place on remote military bases. Among the data was a detailed blueprint for a device so powerful it could cause a chain reaction in global infrastructure. A doomsday device that, if activated, would bring about the mass destruction of cities and the collapse of governments. Marcus's gruff voice broke the silence in the room. "This isn't a drill, Sam. This is war against us all." Sam's pulse quickened as he absorbed each word. The conspiracy was vast, insidious, and meticulously planned. Every government agency he had grown up respecting was now implicated, or so it seemed. The structures of power that safeguarded society were deeply entangled in a network of treachery and subterfuge. For Sam, the implications were staggering. The common man, the everyday worker, could no longer sit by silently, hiding behind the veneer of a "if it doesn't affect me." This discovery not only put him in the crosshairs of powerful enemies, but also thrust him into an existential battle where saving humanity meant pitting a simple soul against the vast machinery of globalism. During a clandestine meeting with an informant in a rain-soaked parking lot, the final pieces of the puzzle began to slot into place. The informant, a jittery man with hollow eyes and trembling hands, revealed that the rogue faction within the CIA had secretly allied with extremist elements in several foreign governments. Their aim was not merely to manipulate power structures from behind closed doors, but to engineer a catastrophe that would allow them to reshape society in their own dystopian vision. The plan entailed releasing engineered pathogens, initiating false flag attacks, and even cyber warfare to cripple infrastructure around the world. Every word from that desperate man confirmed what had become undeniably clear. If nothing stopped them, the world as they knew it would soon be consumed by chaos and destruction. Armed with the incontrovertible evidence of Project Ragnarok, the small band of renegades resolved to act decisively. Their first move was to plan a daring incursion into one of the clandestine hubs, a fortress-like compound rumored to be a nerve center for the conspiracy. Sam's heart hammered as he imagined facing armed guards and state-of-the-art security systems with nothing more than raw determination and the skills that had been hastily imparted on him. There was no backing out. Humanity's future depended on every move they made. They mapped the compound under the cloak of night. Elena's deft hacking skills allowed them access to floor plans and rotation schedules of the security teams. Reggie, with his network of underground contacts, procured forged identification and diversionary devices. Marcus trained Sam in close combat maneuvers and taught him how to improvise in life-and-death situations. Though Sam's hands had previously only tightened around hammers and wrenches, he now clutched a stun rod and a borrowed pistol as if they were natural appendages. In that moment, every bit of the ordinary and mundane life he had known was slowly replaced with a new identity, a reluctant warrior thrust into the heart of a conspiracy that stretched across continents. The night of the incursion was a blur of adrenaline and whispered commands echoing in the darkness. Sam found himself crouching behind a row of abandoned shipping containers, his mind racing with the enormity of the task ahead. The compound's high walls were patrolled relentlessly by armed guards and seemed insurmountable. Yet, the team were shadows, silent and resolute. The plan was precise: infiltrate, extract the device schematics, or disable it altogether, and then broadcast the evidence to every major news outlet in the world. Failure was not an option. The price of inaction was global annihilation. Inside the compound, every corner brimmed with tension. The corridors were sterile, bathed in the harsh glare of fluorescent lights, and humming with the undercurrent of danger. Sam's heartbeat echoed in his ears, a steady drum that both warned and propelled him forward. At a secure terminal deep within the facility, Elena's digital magic was underway. Nearly invisible to the compound's security systems, her fingers glided over the keyboard as she exfiltrated file after file, each piece of information confirming what they already knew. The tension in the room could be cut with a knife, and it was at that moment Sam realized he was no longer just a cog in the machinery of life. He had become a defender, a fighter for truth, and had been tasked with saving the entire world. The extraction was nearly complete when alarms shattered the hushed efficiency of their operation. Red lights began to flash, and urgent voices over the radio splintered the silence. The trap had been sprung. Sam and his newfound allies bolted into a chaotic maelstrom of footsteps, shouts, and the sudden, heart-stopping echo of gunfire. In that charged moment, with danger at every step, Sam tapped into an untrained fervor. He found a will to fight that transcended his blue-collar roots and shone as a beacon of human resilience. What followed was a pulse-pounding chase across the compound's sprawling grounds. Marcus and Sam led the effort, darting through narrow corridors and over makeshift barricades. The CIA operatives were in hot pursuit. Their sleek uniforms and advanced gear were a far cry from the ragged resilience of Sam's team. Yet, the ordinary man's resolve proved to be a formidable equalizer. Every obstacle that threatened to slow him down only fueled his determination to face the monstrous tyranny that sought to remodel the world in its own ruthless image. In a desperate bid to create a diversion, Reggie triggered a series of explosions, controlled blasts that sent shockwaves through the center of the compound. The cacophony of collapsing structures and alarms temporarily disoriented their foes. Sam, seeing his chance amidst the chaos, led a smaller group toward a fortified control room perched high in a skeletal tower. There, Elena discovered the existence of a central communication system, an interface that, if commandeered, could expose Project Ragnarok to the public and mobilize global resistance. Inside the control room, the tension was palpable. Blueprints of worldwide sabotage, detailed logs of covert orders, and streams of encrypted messages paraded across multiple screens. Sam's eyes widened as he realized the scale of betrayal. Not only had the rogue CIA agents orchestrated this multinational conspiracy, but key governmental figures across various nations were complicit in the plan. The room pulsed with ominous energy, as if concealing the final draft of humanity's doom. Yet, in that charged instant, Sam resolved to alter destiny. Drawing upon every scrap of courage he possessed, he slammed his palm onto the terminal, initiating a signal that would broadcast the damning evidence to billions across the globe. Outside, the compound was in an uproar. The broadcast served as a beacon, a call to arms that rippled across news networks and social media, galvanizing citizens, ex-soldiers, hackers, and activists to rise up and resist. It was a fulcrum moment. While agents scrambled to regain control and silence the broadcast, the global community awoke from a preordained stupor. Protests flared in capital cities around the globe. Governments were forced to answer dire questions and began to fracture under the unrelenting pressure of public outrage. The rogue factions' carefully laid plans were unraveling faster than they could be repressed. In the ensuing confrontation, Sam was thrust into a head-on standoff with a cadre of government operatives. Men and women who once represented order and stability now turned ruthless enforcers of a corrupt agenda. With dodged bullets and near misses marking each heartbeat, he fought with the ferocity of a man who understood that his life and the fate of billions depended on his unwilling heroism. The battle was fierce and desperate. In the final moments, as smoke and sirens converged on the high tower, Sam engaged the mastermind behind the conspiracy, a disillusioned former intelligence director whose cold logic had warped into a godlike delusion of control. Their duel, a clash of brute force and cunning intellect, was as symbolic as it was physical. Sam's raw determination, born of everyday trials, met the calculated ruthlessness of decades spent in power shadow. With sweat and blood marking the turning of the tide, Sam disarmed his adversary. His final blow, not merely an act of revenge, but a reclaiming of a reality that had been distorted for too long. In that final, fateful confrontation, the doomsday plans were foiled, and the rogue faction was exposed before the eyes of the world. The world's governments, once united by a common goal of control, had been forced to reckon with the truth, and in their reckoning, humanity saw the light of a new dawn. In the weeks that followed, the full scope of the conspiracy was laid bare. Mass protests, parliamentary inquiries, congressional hearings, and international tribunals swept through the governments of the world. Sam, once an unremarkable blue-collar worker, had become an emblem of the common man's uprising. His face, smeared with dirt and resolve, was splashed across headlines and news broadcast around the globe. For many, he symbolized the triumph of unyielding spirit over the faceless machinery of power. Yet despite the accolades and gratitude, All Sam ever longed for was the solace of returning to a life where his greatest battles were with stubborn machinery and hard work at the factory. Yet the cost was deep. Lives had been lost, trust shattered, and entire systems of power dismantled. In the quiet hours of the early morning, when the world seemed to pause and reflect on the tumultuous events, Sam would sit alone on his apartment balcony, staring at a skyline that had once been his enemy and now felt like the promise of better things. There was undeniable sorrow for innocence that had been lost. There was a new hope found in the rubble of despair. Citizens around the globe had woken to a new reality, one where governments were held accountable, where conspiracies could be exposed, and where the strength of ordinary people could topple even the most entrenched corrupt forces. In a modest ceremony held in a refurbished town hall, leaders recognized the contributions of every unsung hero who had risked their lives to stop the catastrophe. Sam declined any honors, choosing instead to return to his routine work, and yet every time he picked up a tool or shared a quiet nod with a fellow worker, he carried with him an inner conviction. The struggle taught him that true power lies not in the halls of government, but in the heartbeat of the everyday person whose determination can reshape the destiny of nations. The scars on his hands were his medals of honor, silent reminders that even in a world manipulated by unseen forces, the resolve of one ordinary man could ignite a revolution. As new legislation and reforms swept through Congress, Parliament, and other governing authorities worldwide, the remnants of Project Ragnarok were dismantled. A remarkable unity emerged between former adversaries, united by the shared realization that transparency, accountability, and the sanctity of everyday life were non-negotiable. Sam, now occasionally invited to speak at community centers and local gatherings, would always end his talks with the same understated sentiment. We're not defined by the power we wield, but by the strength we muster when it matters most. His voice, quiet, sincere, determined, resonated with people from all walks of life, inspiring them to believe that change was possible, even if it started with one unremarkable soul daring to stand against overwhelming odds. As time went on, nights in Kansas City returned to a semblance of normalcy. The streets hummed with the sound of industry and the chatter of neighbors. But now there was an air of vigilance. People who had seen too much and were determined to safeguard the hard-fought freedoms of the common man. And though Sam's life had forever been altered, he retained a spark of humility. Every callus on his hand and every drop of perspiration was a testament to the power inherent in ordinary lives. A reminder that the struggle for truth is not fought in plush offices, but in the daily grind where simple acts of bravery can change the course of history. As time passed, the memory of the conspiracy and the battle waged by the brave few became interwoven with the tapestry of human history. Statues were raised not in the names of faceless bureaucrats, but in honor of those who had risked everything to ensure that humanity would not be shackled by tyranny. Sam's journey from the factory floor to the very precipice of a global apocalypse served as a gentle, yet powerful reminder. Even when the world seems doomed to darkness, the light of a single determined soul can spark a revolution that reverberates through time. And so, as the sun set on the horizon of a changed world, Sam continued with his quiet life. He understood that while the battle was hard-fought and the scars were deep, the resilience of the human spirit would always triumph over the forces of corruption and despair. His story, though seemingly ordinary, carried with it the ultimate truth. Every person, no matter how plain or unassuming, has the power to alter the fate of the world. With that simple yet profound message echoing through the hearts of billions, humanity embarked on a new chapter, one marked by accountability, hope, and the relentless courage of the everyday hero. In a quiet memoir that only a few would ever read, Sam once wrote, "I never asked to be a soldier, a spy, or a savior. I simply lived a life of honest work and quiet dignity, until fate delivered me a challenge too vast to ignore. I did not fight for glory or recognition, but for the preservation of a world that we all call home." Let this serve as a testament that even the most unremarkable lives can change the course of history. His words remind us that legends are often born in the unlikeliest of places, and even when darkness descends, the light of an ordinary soul can illuminate the path to redemption. Hopefully, the world will not need the tenacity of unremarkable heroes again anytime soon.